Okay, so I was actually going to go and pick up a Wingstop order that me and my mom made online. And while the order cooked, she needed a few things from the grocery store, so I said, I'll just go ahead and run in Publix. And she texted me the grocery list and all, and so I got over to the Publix parking lot, and I did see a guy that was standing outside of the entrance, and once I got there, I parked and got out of the vehicle and start walking up towards the entrance, and once I got towards the entrance, I knew who it was. And it was, my son's uncle. His brother and I were more of like high school sweethearts. And I had my son, at 19 years of age. So there is, extensive, relations back in the day. I have not been involved with or seen him in years. I did recently, I'd say probably about 11 months ago, I ran into him at his mom's house. And that was the last time that I seen him. With that being said, I did not know that he was, on drugs. He was doing, good as far as I knew, had his own business and all. And so when I approached him, he was very distraught, and his first words to me was, "It's happening now." And I said, "What's happening?" He said, "They're getting me." And I said, "Who's getting you?" And he said, "The feds." And when he said the feds, I said, "Okay, what have you done?" And he said, "They sent you." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, let's go." And at that point, he lifted his shirt, he had his pistol in his pants, and I turn around and start walking back towards my vehicle. And at that time, he's walking with me, gets in the passenger side of my car, get in the driver's side, and then once we're secured in the vehicle, he took my phone. He had his crack pipe. He had a bong type thing, and he had the gun. And at that time, he didn't initially start pointing the gun at me. So I asked him, I said, "Okay, where are you going?" And he didn't have a destination. He lived within close proximity to the Publix grocery store area. So that should have been like my first red flag, but it didn't register to me because it all happened so quickly. And I proceeded to just drive around North Augusta. He was on the phone with his girlfriend. While I was driving around in North Augusta, he's pointing at different people in the cars, and he's saying, "Yeah, that's you, I've been watching you for 3 days." He said, there was people that were circling around him for 3 days. Same vehicle, same people. And it just seemed like he was really, to his breaking point. I've never seen him like this. So I will say that I kind of was just, waiting for him to say, "Take me to my house," or "Take me, somewhere." And he never, stated that. So I got down towards downtown area in North Augusta, by the municipal building, and he was telling his girlfriend, one of the news cars came by, and he said, "Well, you put the news on me now." And she wouldn't FaceTime him at the time, and he was wanting to do FaceTime calls, kind of, he just kept saying his best friends have turned on him, his family has turned on him, his girl had turned on him and set him up. So at that time, I could tell that he was really, not in his right frame of mind. So I said, "I'm just going to take you to your mom's." And his mom lives in Aiken. So we start driving towards Aiken from North Augusta. And we got down to the Clearwater area and by the Mi Ranchos, and there was a truck that was beside us, and he, said, that's one of them too. And that's whenever he let off the first fire with the gun. He put the gun out the window and shot, in the air. He didn't shoot towards anyone, he shot at the air. And he said, maybe if I start, shooting at, these people, then they'll stop following me. And I said, no, don't do that. He said, well, I at least needed to know that it worked. And I was like, okay. So I'm driving and I'm trying to get him to his mom's as fast as I can. And we go up the bypass, go by the Wendy's, turn by the Wendy's onto Whiskey Road, headed towards like the College Acres, New Ellington area. And I got to his mom's. He wouldn't allow me to, turn into the driveway. And it wasn't maybe a minute before his mom came, flying behind us, and she pulled into the yard as well. And she came up to the side of the window, the passenger side of the window, and he asked her for a Gatorade. Said he wasn't going inside because he knew the feds were in there. And she goes, runs in, gets the Gatorade, comes back. He, takes the drink, and she had her phone in her hand, leaning up, towards him, in the window. And he said, here, let me see that. And he took her phone and held her phone, and he started looking at all her apps and all. And he was saying that, she was in on it too because she had some of the same apps that his girlfriend had on her phone, and they were just regular apps. So once he said that, he said, go. And that was whenever he pulled the gun on me, and was shooting the laser beam at me. And he said, and so I had no choice but to go ahead and go. And we left there. Still, he didn't have a destination, and I was turning out onto Powder House Road, and got onto East Pine Log Road, and he told me to take a left, and I was on Banks Mill Road, I believe. And he told me to take another left, and I ended up over there by the Two Notch Road area, and it was his baby mother's house. And once we pulled up, she didn't recognize my car. Her son was out there actually by the front door on the front porch, and he's probably about 8 years old maybe. And he said, go get your mama, tell your mama to come out. And the little boy said, who is my mama? And he said, go get your mom, boy. And the little boy went back inside the house, and he never came back. So we sat out there. During that time, I didn't tell you this part, but during that time, he was sitting in the passenger side car still, and he was calling his daughter, which was with this woman, and his son that was with this woman. And he picked up the phone with the daughter, and he said, I just wanted to let you know that I love you, and was giving his farewells to her. And initially ended up just hanging up because he said that she was a part of turning him in and setting him up too. And the little boy actually was on the FaceTime call, and he's got his gun held to his temple at this point. And the little boy is watching him FaceTiming him, and he said, I'm telling him, I said, don't let him see you like this, and he's trying to talk his dad out of it. He's saying, please just stop, you have your whole life ahead of you, just don't do this, and they hung up with each other. The calls kept dropping. Whatever call he was on, they kept dropping. And so at that point, that was at the point where I knew I was going to run out of gas eventually, soon. And so I told him, I said, I'm going to go get gas. And so I pull off from there, and I went by many gas stations. He wouldn't allow me to stop in the gas stations because he was for sure that I was going to get him trapped in with the police. And so we rode around Aiken. I probably looped around Aiken twice. During this time, I believe that's whenever the Facebook Live started. And he was, every red light that I'd pull up at, he wouldn't allow me to stop at any of these red lights. So of course it's Southside Aiken, there's traffic, and I'm creeping up at these red lights because every time I pull up at one, he's got the pistol to my head. And I mean, he would have the beam on the pistol, as he's trying to, point it at me. And so I would know, whenever it was fixing to come close. And I'm still trying to pay attention to the road, and there was oncoming traffic. We came up to one red light, and the only way out was to go towards the oncoming traffic, which was a one-way, lane, and it was a turning lane, so people didn't have to stop at the light, and they were just turning. And so here I am going towards the cars, and it was very scary for me during that time. He's just telling me to go, and I have the gun to my head, and I'm like, I just don't know, I don't know what to do, So we get down towards downtown Aiken. I had to go through another red light like that. I had to go around a couple cars down there at the red lights, and I'm just running red lights at this point. And we got down to the Enmark gas station, and I was able to talk to him and ask him. I told him, I said, if we can get gas, I will take you anywhere you want to go, And we get to that gas station, and there was two vehicles there, and he was okay with it. I said, you're going to get out of my car, and you're going to, you can take my card and pay for the gas and pump the gas. And he says, okay. Well, he gets out of the car. I pull up to the pump. He gets out of the car, and he says, he puts the card in, and he says, you gave me you gave me a fake card. And I said, do what? And it's my regular bank card that I use all the time. And he just had it in there backwards. So I try to go get out of the car. I had the car door open and one foot out of the car, and he draws the gun on me at the gas station and says, get back in the car. And he was telling me that that was my way to get out. And I said, no, I wasn't trying to do that, and just trying to reassure him that, everything was going to be fine, if he just would stop. And we left from there with no gas. And I head down Aiken-Augusta Highway, and from, all the way through the downtown area to the Aiken-Augusta Highway. And once I got on the Aiken-Augusta Highway, we traveled up to North Augusta, and finally ran out of gas in front of the Taylor Toyota place. And once I ran out of gas, he was, for sure that the feds had cut my car off with the OnStar that was on the car. And he was on a FaceTime call with his brother at this point, which is my son's father. And he said, he took the FaceTime call, and as he's talking to his brother in the FaceTime call, he's thinking that he's talking to the feds too. And so he's saying, turn her car on right now or she dies. Turn her car back on right now or she dies. And I'm like, at that point, I knew that it was getting bad because we're boxed in. There's no way I can get out, I even tried to accidentally unlock the door with the power lock, and he locked it back. He wouldn't allow me to, roll down the windows. He wouldn't allow me to turn on the AC. He's steadily hitting, his crack pipe, and he's got the gun drawn on me with the laser beam. I remember crying, and his brother's just begging him, let my son's mom go. My son needs a mom, and he wouldn't. And so I'm crying. I'm telling him, it's getting bad now. It's getting really bad. There was a tractor trailer over by the Bob Richards place, and it had the cars, on the tractor trailer, and the lights were, down the side of it. And he kept saying, they've got all the lights on all the cars. The feds have got all the lights on all the cars. And I'm like, no, that's just a tractor trailer. He was so high. He was so high. I've never seen anything like it. But my friend called, and the phone was on his lap, and he had reached down and accidentally touched the screen, and it flipped the call over to her. And I asked her, she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm okay." I said, "We need gas." And she said, I said, "Can you bring us some gas?" And she said, "Yeah, I can bring you gas. Where are you at?" And that's whenever I disclosed my location to her. And he said, "Yeah, bring us gas right now, and don't bring the cops," and hung up the phone. And so that was the only person besides, his brother or family members or whatever that, he had these FaceTime calls with, that I was even able to speak with. And this was over a series of like 5 hours. And not long after I got off the phone with her, or he hung up the phone with her, the cops came, and it was a marked car that came behind us. And I had the sunroof open, and not long after that, after he arrived, the other law enforcement officers came in behind them, and they blocked off the road behind us. And they all had these very bright lights on top of the car and the headlights, and they drove or flew a drone over the top of the car. And when he heard it, he took the gun and fired off at the drone. And at that time, the gun had jammed, and he's trying to unjam the gun. And at this point, I get my feet, and I'm standing in my seat, crouched down. And as he's trying to unjam the gun, he's taking the clip out at this point, and I'm just trying to figure out a way out of the car, because he was pointing it at me, and I was for sure that a bullet was going to accidentally hit me. And so I was able to reach behind me without him noticing, and unlock the car door. And he's reaching in his pocket for another spare bullet and loading the gun. And so as I'm like getting out of the car backwards, he pointed the gun at me, and I'm just running for safety to the police officers. And and then he fired at the police officers, and then they fired off at him.
And you were saying when you were running out, what was going through your head at that moment?
At that time, I didn't know if the police officers knew I was the driver or not. And I was very afraid. I couldn't see anything because the lights were so bright. I didn't know where I was running. I didn't know if they were going to fire at me once I opened the door. So I'm thinking, if he didn't kill me, that, or if a bullet accidentally, came out, I didn't know if he was going to kill me or if the cops were going to kill me, and I was thinking that it was over.